Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you all the books that I plan on reading in the month of January. So now that I'm forever done with classes, I don't feel like my reading will be interfered a lot with kind of school stuff just because I won't have to be studying all those things. So I'm happy that I'll have more time dedicated to reading in kind of this new year. And so my reading goals this month are pretty ambitious. I have a total of 7 books on this TBR, which I think it can be doable, but I think I'm still overshooting, so I'm just going to aim low to avoid disappointment. If I get to read 3 of these books this month, I'll still be happy with it. But I was kind of thrown off because I was looking at my school's academic calendar, and usually we start school the week before Martin Luther King Jr. Day, but we don't start school till the 18th. So I'm like, you know what, this is great because it gives me time to read this one book that is quite lengthy, so it gives me that time to read it. But yeah, these books are kind of all over in terms of genre. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So starting out, I have the first 2 books. The first one is one that I'm currently reading, and the second book is one that is like the final book in the trilogy, and it is The Subtle Knife and the Amber Spyglass by Pullman. And so this is the second and third book in his Dark Materials trilogy, and I read The Golden Compass towards the end of December and I really loved it. I never read this series as a kid, and I do have a hard time because I do tend to read more adult fiction or adult level writing. Have a hard time going back and reading kind of books that are geared towards a younger audience, but I feel like these books are very well written, and I don't feel like, even if you have a hard time reading YA as adult, I feel like these books are well written enough that you don't feel like you're reading books that are geared towards kids. But basically the premise of this trilogy, you guys probably already know, but it follows a girl named Lyra who lives in kind of a parallel Oxford of our world where people in this world have demons, which are basically animals that contain a person's soul. So she ends up getting given this golden compass which can tell the truth, and so she learns how to work it, and this world is kind of crumbling at the seams. There is kind of this mysterious particle known as dust, and Lyra is very much the one that has the weight of the world on her shoulders. I think it's best not going into it, kind of not knowing too much, not really knowing what to expect, because there is kind of a mystery aspect in here. But I'm about a little bit over halfway through the second book and I'm really liking it so far, so I'm happy I decided to pick up this trilogy. I've been wanting to read it for a long time. I never read it when I was a kid, and I was like, you know what, I feel like I just wanted a short book to read by the end of the year in December, and I really liked it, and so I definitely think I could finish these relatively quickly. So yeah, so like I said, I'm really happy I decided to pick these ones up, and I'm really liking them so far. So next up, these 2 books are something that I'm going to have to read every single month until July. And so Tess Gerritsen has a new book within the Recieve and I series coming out within the first week of July, and I'm really excited for that. The Recieve and I series is like made me really become obsessed with reading. Yeah, so I first read the first book when I was in grade 10, which is coming up to 12 years now, so it has been a while since I've read this series, and this is one that I want to go back and reread and actually take notes on, so I don't have to do this thing where an author decides to release a book and I'm like, I don't remember what even happened in the other ones. So that is kind of my general plan. So I have to read 2 books every single month until July, and then I'll be caught up. So the first 2 books that I have to read are The Surgeon and The Apprentice. Like I said, I loved this series growing up. Like, I literally would read the book in a week, and on Fridays my mom would pick me up from school and we'd walk into town and go to the bookstore and I'd get the next book in the series. And I also love the TV show series as well. But basically this follows Jane Rizzoli, who is a Boston homicide detective, and then Mara Isles, who is the medical examiner, and just the cases that they kind of go on. Like I said, it's been such a long time since I do remember The Surgeon and The Apprentice the most, but other than that, like, I don't remember a lot. Like, it's been a long time, long enough time that I don't remember, but I just remember flying through these, so I don't think it'll be too much of an issue to have to read 2 of these a month. I think it makes it very doable just because I remember flying through these when I was a kid. So yeah, I'm really excited to pick these ones up. I think it'll be super nostalgic, and just to read these as an adult now, I think will just be a really fun experience. So next up, this is the Tales and Teacups book club picks for the months of January and February. And in my announcement video, I said I wasn't sure how we were going to do it, but basically for if you want to participate in the book club, you can either kind of write in the comments of the announcement video, but always for a book club pick, I always do a separate review video, so you can either comment in the announcement or review video. So you have a couple different options to participate in, but for the first 2 months of the year, we will be reading the Book of Lost Names by Kristin Harmel. A lot of you guys said you're really excited to pick this one up, and I agree. I'm really excited, and I think the premise of this sounds super interesting. So it says Eva, a semi-retired librarian in Florida, is at the returns desk one morning when her eyes lock on a photograph in a newspaper nearby. She freezes. It's an image of a book she hasn't seen in 65 years, a book she recognizes as a Book of Lost Names. The accompanying article describes the looting of libraries across Europe by the Nazis during World War II, an experience Eva remembers all too well. As a graduate student in 1942, Eva was forced to flee Paris after the arrest of her father, a Polish Jew. Finding refuge in a small mountain town in the Free Zone, she begins forging identity documents for Jewish children fleeing to neutral Switzerland. But erasing people comes with a price, and along with a mysterious, handsome forager named Remy, Eva decides she must find a way to preserve the real names of the children who are too young to remember who they really are. The records they keep in the Book of Lost Names will become even more vital when the resistance cell they work with is betrayed and Remy disappears. And so I think this one sounds super interesting. I just think the concept is just like super unique and exciting, and I love a good World War II historical fiction book. And so like I said, a lot of you guys are interested in kind of reading this along, so I'm really excited to see what all of you guys think of this one. So this is the book that I definitely want to read before school starts, and just because it is a very big book. It's well over 500 pages, and closer to 600 actually, over 600 pages. So I think this one will be a good one to kind of dedicate my time to before I'm kind of focused with kind of going back to reality with school stuff. And it is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. This is his newest novel. I loved All the Light We Cannot See. I think I read it back in like 2014, 2015 when it first came out. I remember reading it and just loving his writing, and I think this one also sounds super interesting as well. So it basically follows the trail that this book has had throughout history, and then also kind of in our future as well. So it follows this book when it was saved from the burning of the Library of Alexandria, and we follow how this book has kind of influenced people's lives throughout history and just how it's been like connected, which I think is such an interesting concept. I remember reading like the synopsis, but I think it's just kind of good to kind of go into this probably not knowing too much and what to expect, but we follow different characters from different parts of human history, and like I said, also in our future as well, which I think the theme of just how books have connected us throughout history and like all those things is such a neat concept, and just how books have connected us throughout time, I think is just really interesting, and I hope he does a good job. I haven't looked at reviews or anything for this. I just kind of want to go into this unbiased and kind of see what I think, but yeah, the expectations for this, I will say, are pretty high, so we'll see if it meets it. And lastly, this is a book that if I get to it, good for me, but I'm not expecting to. And it is Darkness Falls by Robert Bryznda. This is the third book in the Kate Marshall series. And for this one, I do not know the plot of this book in particular, but I will let you guys know what the general premise is. It follows Kate Marshall, who 15 years ago was at the peak of her career. What should have been like the most defining point in her career ended up being her downfall. So she ended up figuring out who the Nine Elms killer was, and it ends up coming about that prior to her discovering this, that she had a romantic relationship with him, and the press tore her apart. And so flash forward 15 years into the present day, she's still very much dealing with the aftermath of those events, but now she is a criminology professor, and there are these string of murders taking place that are very eerily similar to the events of those killings that happened over a decade ago, and she kind of gets involved in that. But what I really like about Kate as a character is that she's very flawed. She's very much kind of struggling even now, where it's like 15 years after the fact, she's still very much kind of struggling and coming to terms with what happened. And I think that is such a complex character to kind of see go through that and kind of know she's struggling, and she knows she's doing things that she shouldn't necessarily do. And I just love kind of seeing that up and down of that character. These books are really well written. I feel like the chapters are very short, so you just want to keep reading and reading, so you can fly through these relatively quickly. And yeah, like I said, I'm really excited. I don't know if I'll be able to get to it this month, but definitely very, very soon. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what books you plan on reading in the first month of 2022 and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.